Welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we do have a doctor in the house from time to time, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing we say on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check in with a trusted medical professional about your own personal medical concerns. Hello and welcome. This is Kim Howerton with podcast Keto Life Support. That was an awkward way to say that. The podcast is called Keto Life Support, but it's also a video on YouTube. So depending on where you are, you can watch it as a video on YouTube where you get to see me wave my hands around and things, or you can just listen to it as a podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Your choice. All right. So back to where we were. Episode number 162 of Keto Life Support. Kim Howerton here, still joining you to discuss a follow-up from last week's episode. So in last week's episode, I talked about a mistake I made where I did a food plan for an experiment for a video, and I was not mentally prepared. And I talked in that episode about how, I was kind of in some denial for a while about what was really going on. And I'm pleased to report I am doing so much better. Like, just getting connected to reality is amazing. Crazy, but true. And so I wanted to share a little bit more with you. I wanted to share about how I'm doing now, what I'm doing now, and also some of the unpacking I've done around what had been going wrong for a little while, or actually, quite honestly, a long while, because I am not perfect. I'm going to change the name of the podcast to that anyway. So what I'd like to talk about. So to catch you up, you can listen to the other episode, but to catch you up, basically, I did a very, very low calorie experiment for a podcast based on a food plan that is being sold out there in the world, and cockily thought that I could handle it, no problem. And even though I would tell any ex-food addict / person with disordered eating not to risk it, but somehow I think I'm immune from all danger and do all sorts of dumb things. And I did a dumb thing, and the dumb thing made me a little nuts. And then in the wake of the dumb thing, I proceeded to want to be in denial that it had been as dumb a thing as it had been, because I should have known better and I was embarrassed. This brings us up to present. All right. So what's going on here? Well, as I talked about in the first episode, I am somebody with an eating disorder. I have binge eating disorder. It's been very well managed with the way I choose to eat and the things that I do in my life for years. And there's been a few cracks in the shell, and now I've spent some serious time going over the last year of my experience and looking for where things started to break down and what I could have done differently so that I didn't end up in this sort of crisis point. Let's break that down a little bit. Let's unburden my soul, as they say. All right. So the first thing I want to say is I am very committed to a cyclical pattern of eating called nutritional periodization, which means that I go through periods where if I'm trying to lose weight, like if I still have a weight loss goal overall, I have a period of time I'm trying to lose weight. It's a defined period of time. Then I've got a defined period of time in maintenance. And every once in a while, I throw in a period of time when I'm doing a reverse, when there are indications that would be a good idea. Generally speaking, a reverse is a good idea if I feel like I'm experiencing a little more metabolic suppression or a larger degree of adaptation in my body to a lower caloric intake than I'd really like, or I just need a bit of a change in my pattern. So I've gone over what nutritional periodization is a little more in the specific video about that. But just to catch you up here to let you know that I believe very strongly that this sort of cyclical approach, and you can apply that cyclical approach to really any style, keto or otherwise. But what I had done for quite some time is successfully do a cut and then maintenance and a cut and then maintenance. getting down under 100 pounds, lost, not under 100 pounds, that would be ridiculous, losing 100 pounds, right? Unclogging my stall, doing all that. And I unclogged, I'll say, unstuck my stall with a reverse diet period. So I started with a reverse, then I did a cut and maintenance cut. Imagine a chart that goes down generally. And what had happened was at the end of about a 2-year cycle of that, there was a little voice in my head that said, you probably should do another reverse. And I tried to ignore that little voice in my head because I was like, I'm so close to where I want to be. I really got like a year ago, I was probably within 7 pounds of my ultimate goal weight. I was like, I'm just going to get there, but slowly and casually, and, it'll be fine. And so like physician heal thyself, right? So what ended up happening over like the last year is I kept saying I was in maintenance, but really hoping I was going to lose weight. And then I kept saying I was going to do a cut, but I wasn't really committing to it the way I needed to commit to it. So I kind of like half-assed the whole year, not seeing any real progress. I wasn't seeing any real progress with weight loss, but at the same time, I wasn't seeing any real progress like on the stability front in terms of the good things that can happen from really committing to the phase you're in. So it was sort of this mushy, mucky thing. It wasn't terrible. Like I was in good spirits and things were fine. Like I don't want to give the impression I was in crisis. What I'm saying is there were little teeny cracks starting to form in the foundation of my approach to managing my experience around food. And this is what happens with my clients too. This is not an unusual experience. Very few of us are willing to gain weight intentionally when we still want to lose weight. And a reverse can often result in that. Not a lot of weight, mind you, but some. But what ends up happening when you resist is often the same thing happens, but in a less good way. Because like a really focused, concentrated reverse sets you up for success in your next cut. Whereas half-assed, confused, meandering around, messy edges, no good borders, boundaries a little fuzzy, that just gets you to gain weight without actually it being the same benefit, without it being like for a cause. Instead of like one step back to take 2 steps forward, it's sort of like one step to the left, one step to the right. I fell down. Where am I? Right? It's not really super directed. I'm not saying it was like full blown like that, but it was just a little fuzzy around the edges. It wasn't super clear, defined, on point. And what does that mean? That means I was operating from a shakier foundation coming into this year, and then got encouraged to maybe see a little more weight loss because over the holidays, as will always happen in the winter for me, a few pounds crept on. I'm much more active in the summer and the spring. Things are, I eat a little bit differently. So it wasn't unusual that the scale goes up a little bit in the winter, but I was like not really in alignment with it. I was not happy about it. And so I just let the voices in my head get really loud around wanting to be different, but then also not being declarative about what I was going to do differently to make things different. And, I deal with this every single day with my clients, but, sometimes it's so hard in ourselves. And that's kind of what was going on. So now what am I doing to fix this now that I've made this realization? Well, I'm really happy to say I have not felt this unencumbered and free in a long time, because what did I do? I finally came to terms with this is what I weigh right now. This is what I will weigh. And that it's probably time to actually do that real reverse, not a half-ass one, not a pretend one, a real one, a concentrated one, a planned out one. And so I've been doing that over the past week or so, and I feel mentally clear, happy, together. It is amazing what just that little mental shift, and I talk about I swear I talk about it, but sometimes you have to have a good talking to with yourself. By the way, this is why every coach needs a coach. And I didn't have a coach last year. You need somebody, everybody. We all need somebody that we can come to and say, things aren't quite working out. Well, like, can we talk about it? And so that's what was going on with me. And I was kind of like trying to do it alone. And that's not a good idea in this bad neighborhood of my mind sometimes, right? Coaches aren't coaches because they're perfect. Coaches are coaches because they aren't. And because they're supposed to know when to say, use some help here. And instead, like, my pride got in the way. I can totally handle this. Anyway. Yeah. So I've reached out to get some help, and I haven't yet started that relationship yet, but things are good. And I've started my reverse, and I've really loosened up the reins around sort of what I feel and think around what I'm going to weigh and what I think about that, and the thought process I have around being who I am. And, it kind of can happen sometimes that things creep in. We're human. I'm human. I don't know. I think everyone watching this, I hope, is human, unless there's a dog or two, and that's totally fine. They're welcome. So I'm committed to a reverse phase, even though that means I will probably not fit into my smallest pant size. And that's okay, because when I commit to this and I take it where it needs to go, I know it will set me up for ongoing success in the future. I am getting some help so that I'm working with somebody who can keep an eye on me and make sure that I'm staying true to the things that I really believe in and I want to do. Somebody that can challenge me as well. Every great coach I know has a coach. To think that I am not also somebody that might need that is silly. So then from there, I am going to experience the next several months of reverse and then going into maintenance and then really staying there. And the most central part for me is to really embrace the fact that I am not trying to lose weight, even accidentally right now. This is not my goal. And in fact, to lose weight right now would indicate I am failing at my goal. And it puts me in a mindset that I haven't honestly been in for some time. So that's just a little follow-up on where I've been, why I feel so much better. Like the clenching that was in my heart has released. I feel a lot of freedom here. I feel excited about what's to come. I don't love that I can't wear my favorite pants, right now. And that's not a big deal. Because in those places where I get into my head and anxious and fixated on things that don't really matter, like a pair of pants, that's not a good reason to ruin my life. It's not a good reason to ruin my experience. And yes, I am a weight loss coach, but I'm not a weight loss at the expense of everything coach. When I look at all of my health markers, my blood pressure, my A1C, my HDL, my LDL, even my waist circumference still, all those things, I'm still metabolically healthy. My body fat percentage is still in a metabolically healthy range, right? I have aesthetic goals that I was working on, and maybe I just pushed it a little too hard and I wasn't quite definitive enough and I didn't do the things I know to do. And I let myself slide into the murky space, and then cracks formed in my foundation. And then doing something dumb on top of that just took me out at the knees. And then I had to recover. This is life. This is what life looks like. It is just what life looks like. Being conscious here, being aware here. This is why I'm not worried that I'm going to regain the 100 pounds that I lost. I'm not. I might battle 10, but I'm not going to battle 100. That's just life. That's okay. Is it the way that I would choose life to be? No, if I had like a button I could push. No, life would be a lot different if I could genie in the bottle my way out of everything. But what fun would that be? I would be useless as a coach if I would be like, well, where's your button? Duh, press the button. That's what you do. No, that's not how you coach. I went through the fire and now I'm burning a little bit around the edges. I'm a little singed. And hopefully I can have some good lessons out of this for you guys too. So that's where I'm at. That's my unburdening, a little step 2. So just to clarify what happened here, I went and did an audit. I was like, things had felt a little wonky. That wasn't deep enough of an answer for me. So I really took some time to pull the pieces apart and say, okay, where were the first cracks showing? And it's been like a year. So that's interesting. What was going on there? And where was I not in alignment with what I needed to do? Because I wasn't in alignment. I mean, that's what happened. Mentally, I was like, hey, I'm so close. I'm almost across the finish line. I'm just going to push it through. But then I didn't do the things that I needed to do to make that happen. And I wasn't in a mental space where those things were going to happen anyway. So getting really clear with what's going on with me, what's going on in my brain, doing all those things, unraveling that whole experience. I now feel like I can take a deep breath. There's freedom here. I'm not doing the kinds of things that make it harder for me to live as a human. I'm making good decisions, happy decisions, and I feel a lot better. That is where we're at. Not the Pollyanna the moment. I will certainly have moments of despair again. It's just a way that things happen in life, right? But for now, I am 2 thumbs up. Like I feel like legitimately very different. I'm not just saying that. I have to say that there was this loop. I'm going on a cruise next week, right? And it's warm. You're going to I can't hide under a bunch of sweaters. And so, I'm like, oh gosh, my brain kept telling me that everyone was going to judge me if they saw that I was a little fluffier than I was a year ago. First of all, I don't know that anyone would have noticed that in my sane brain, my current sane brain. And if they did, they might just think, well, that outfit's not as flattering as I've seen her wear things before, something like that, right? It's not like I've gained not like I gained 100 pounds, right? But my brain tells me all sorts of mean things when I let the thoughts in. And now I'm like, I'm going to talk about gaining 10 pounds. I'm going to talk about the experience because I think this could be useful for people. So let's talk about it. Let's have the discussion. Because I did not sign up to hide. I signed up to live here with you guys so that we could talk about things. And so that's a real change in mindset where I'm like, I'm looking forward to this experience. All right. Don't have to feel ashamed of myself. I am a happy, what am I? I am a complex human who is often happy. And I'm happy right now to talk about this with you guys and have this experience living out loud, even in the things that my ego wants me to silence so that I can just feel superior in myself. And that's ridiculous because I'm not. We are all equal. We are all doing the best we can in every moment. And I would rather help one person that needs to hear what I have to say than have 100 people approve of me just to approve of me and kind of be a useless entity. That's not the game I'm playing. So hopefully this was useful for you. If you want to learn more about sort of this periodization and where I'm going into that, there's a podcast we replayed 2 weeks ago called Nutritional Periodization. Check that out because it's got some good information in it about what is nutritional periodization. And if you want to get started there, that's probably where to get started. So I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Keto Life Support. Want more information? Want show notes? Want to suggest a topic? Just head over to ketolifesupport.com. That's where all that kind of thing can go on. By the way, I have a request. If you could go to your podcast host and hit subscribe, we would really, really appreciate it. And what would be even more awesome is if you could write a review. And what would be even more awesome than that is if you could write a really flattering review. Just asking, you do you. All right. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm thrilled that you're part of the Keto fam. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.